Gray was peeling leeches for her, with the caption, "True siblings never need blood ties." I wrapped the jade bracelet fragments in the Sue embroidery handkerchief. Tomorrow morning at 9. The lawyer will go to the old house to inventory the belongings. The light swept over the sapphire cuff links peeking out from the gap in the locker. Those were forcibly given to me by Sean last year, on my birthday. As for their things, let them be a nest for the mice. Soon it was the day I was going abroad, when Piper slapped the boarding pass into my palm. My phone buzzed in my bag like a dying bee. Gray and Sean each made countless calls, and after I ignored them, they frantically sent me messages. "Are you done making a fuss? Clara is crying and wants to find the master to help fix the bracelet. Are you satisfied now? If you come back to apologize now, I can still be your brother. You treat the things I gave you as garbage. Avril, you're ruthless. Do you think leaving these behind can erase 20 years of feelings?" Navi. I opened the voice message and Claire is tearful. "I'm sorry." Avril pierced through the noise of the waiting hall. Piper suddenly snatched the phone, coldly sneering into the recording hole. "Gray, listen. Well, Avril's flight is called Screw You. I took a sip of lemon water, and my fingertips brushed over the last voice message. Clara continued to sob. "Avril, please don't be angry anymore, okay?" In the background, there was a faint sound of porcelain shattering. Probably Sean, smashing the set of blue and white porcelain. In the study, again, I blocked all their contact information. The flashing green light at the boarding gate is like Grandma's desk lamp. I remember when she taught me to make Chinese knots. She said the thread ends must be burned clean, so they won't unravel. Before the plane took off, the maid, Aunt Chen, secretly sent me the video she had taken. The study in the Gu residence. The camera is partially obscured by a vase. The 13th time Sean dialed the same number. The mechanical voice was particularly jarring. In the silence. Definitely a signal problem. Gray loosened his tie. The sapphire cuff links stained with whiskey. Last time she ran away from home. Didn't she come back by herself? The camera shifts, capturing Gray curled up on the sofa, flipping through an album. His fingertips repeatedly caressed a certain photograph, the moonlight illuminating the faded red string around his wrist, identical to the one I burned. Sean's eyes were vacant. She used to come to me crying even when she cut her finger. Then the two men stared blankly at a wall. There used to be all my honor certificates, from elementary school to high school, posted there. But of course, they are gone now. Before going abroad, I took the time to go back and took all my certificates with me. Now only Clara's various certificates remain there. Sean kicked open the cardboard box, and the sapphire cuff links clinked and rolled to Gray's feet. She really dares. Gray crushed half a box of the mint candies I had left, the ones I used to stuff in his pockets every day during the year he quit smoking. "Book a ticket. I'm going to get him back right now." "What ticket are you booking?" John suddenly grabbed Gray by the collar. "Back then you said Clara was pitiful and spent more time with her. Now you're pretending to be so sentimental." The camera shakes and finally freezes on the torn paper cranes. 365 of them, that Gray folded while staying up late before the college entrance exam, wishing for me to achieve my dream of getting into my desired university. Clara entered with a fruit. "Sean Gray, don't worry. Avril should come to her senses after a while. All right, you go back to your room and rest. Didn't you twist your leg today?" Sean's tone towards her was really not good. "This time we know what to do about other things." The video abruptly cut off with Sean's roar. Her passport expired a long time ago. Where can she run to? He didn't know that. On the night I kept vigil with my grandmother's urn, I had already dug out the green card that had been pressed at the bottom of the drawer. It was something my mother had arranged for me when she didn't have much time left. Now it has become her daughter's last escape route. Mom Chen sent me a message. They all seem to regret it. They should soon see the true nature of that woman. She originally didn't dislike Clara that much, but her son had lymphoma before. Yet Clara wouldn't let her take a leave and insisted that she make her specialty, crystal shrimp dumplings. Of course, Clara wasn't so straightforward at the time. She just pretended to be very understanding. Aunt Chen has something to do, so she should go back first. It's just, I really want to eat. Sigh. It's all my fault for being so greedy. This was said in front of Sean. So Sean immediately let Chen Ma stay and prepare the shrimp dumplings before going back, because she couldn't give up this job. Chen Ma was anxious and tormented, but she had no choice but to endure and stay. In the end, I couldn't bear to see Aunt Chen's swollen red eyes, so I let her leave first, and even gave her some money to pay for her son's medical expenses. John didn't blame Chen Ma. Later, he just took this incident as one of the pieces of evidence against Clara and scolded me again. I smiled and replied to Chen Ma, "Thank you, Chen Ma, but you don't need to tell me about their matters anymore." On the day I landed in Paris, there was a light fog, and Grandma Chen was waiting for me at Charles de Gaulle Airport, wrapped in a cashmere shawl. My grandmother always said she was a Chanel-wearing warrior. Sure enough, the old lady was cursing the taxi driver, who was overcharging her in French, while pulling out the keys to my new apartment and the job offer from the Design Institute from her Hermes bag. "Your grandmother entrusted me to take care of you, and I can't let her lose face before God." Thanks to Grandma Shin's help, I hardly had to exert any effort to solve the most troublesome accommodation issue. Upon arriving in a foreign land, after a simple shopping trip, I made myself a light lunch, and after eating, I took a short nap. Piper's video call popped up at 3 in the afternoon, and she was chugging iced Americanos while sporting dark circles under her eyes. Clara now looks like a kicked chihuahua. Yesterday I went shopping and happened to see her pretending to faint and grabbing Gray's shirt corner. Guess what? Gray just shook her off and shouted, "Can you just be quiet for a moment?" The camera shook, revealing her computers. Facebook with 2 people's 99 plus unread messages. Those 2 jerks are blocking my garage every day now. Sean even dug out the broken watercolor pencils you gave him in kindergarten, insisting that I must know where you are. She suddenly leaned closer to the camera and lowered her voice. Gray, with his scruffy beard, told me that every night he dreams of you, piecing the jade bracelet back together, revealing his name in the moonlight. I feel very sorry for Piper, because due to the partnership between her family and the Goof family, she can't block those 2. You might as well go abroad with me, Piper. I would like to, but my dad is forcing me to take over the family business. Nowadays, I leave early and come home late, just to look at reports and accounts. Ugh, she said, becoming serious again. A bit worried. Those 2 bitches are sending people to look for you. Non-stop you. I comforted her. It should be fine. I used to go to the UK, the US, and Japan often. They probably wouldn't think I would be in France. But I thought it was somewhat beautiful, because half a year later, I saw Sean and Gray again. That day when I pushed open the apartment door, holding a plastic bag from the supermarket, I first smelled the sour, rancid odor of the leftover whiskey. Ray curled up on the steps asleep, his suit wrinkled like a rag, the tie loosely tied around Sean's wrist. They had actually tied themselves together with the red string that had once bound my birthday gift, as if that would prevent them from losing each other again. Avril. Sean sprang up from beside the trash can, stubble sticking to a piece of dry leaf. He raised the Doryman thermos, a Christmas gift I gave him in middle school, with dried cola stains still stuck in the scratches on the cup. When Gray woke up, he knocked over the cardboard box by his feet, and I caught a glimpse of the exposed fragments of the cherry blossom specimen. At 19 in Kyoto, he had squatted on the steps of the shrine for 3 hours, saying he wanted to keep spring forever for me. We searched 7 countries. Gray's voice was like a rusty piano string. He reached out to touch the baguette in my arms, only to suddenly realize that his fingertips were tinged with Clara's perfume, and he recoiled as if electrocuted, rubbing them vigorously on his pants. I crossed the baguette over my chest as a weapon. Mr. Sean, according to Article 226(3) of the French Penal Code, illegal intrusion can result in imprisonment. Gray suddenly knelt down and rummaged through the cardboard box. Look, my brother and I restored the old house, your room, even that wilted pot of mint on the windowsill. That's basil. I interrupted him. You can never tell my potted plants apart. Just like you can't distinguish Clara's lies. Sean shook out a yellowed Ultraman t-shirt. I've kept the sheets you wet. When you were 10, you said your brother's wardrobe is a time machine. Why are there no mom and grandma in the time machine? I lifted the trash can, revealing the cigarette box they had just thrown away. Just like you always have. Clara's asthma medication in your pockets. Yet, you can't remember that I'm allergic to nicotine. Gray suddenly clutched his chest and crouched down, and I instinctively took a half step back. The man who once shielded me from the wine bottles now looks up at me in the same posture Clara used to feign heartache. What will it take for you to come back? I'll send Clara to a mental hospital if you want. Or should I just die? I watched him pull a stack of photos from the inner pocket of his suit, his fingertips trembling as he spread them out on the steps. In the surveillance screenshot, Clara is wearing my old nightgown, crushing sleeping pills, and pouring them into his whiskey glass. You left the next day and she climbed into my bed. His throat felt like it had swallowed shards of glass. But she doesn't have that scar on her back. The scar from when you shielded me from the boiling water. When you were 15. Sean suddenly tore open his shirt, revealing a faded French tattoo on his chest that read, Sister, Clara tore up all your photos. So I carved the memories into my flesh. He dug his fingers into the scab tattoo. But no matter how I tattoo it, I can never get the original you back. We chose the most remote sanatorium for her. Gray hurriedly added, she will definitely not appear in front of us again. I rubbed the twisted branch pattern, carved by Grand Mason on the apartment key, and suddenly remembered my grandmother's words. When jade is broken, it can be repaired with gold. But when a heart is broken, gold leaf will only cut and bleed. I remained silent for a long time, before finally speaking. Sean, the night I had a fever when I was 12. You said you would always protect me. His pupils suddenly constricted. And then when I turned 20 and had a fever of 39 degrees. That night, he was holding Clara while watching a concert. My phone was dead, and I was so sick I could barely make a sound. Almost crawling to the landline to make the emergency call. Gray, you swore at Grandma's funeral that you would love me. For her. I tugged at my collar. But later that night, when Clara tore up my design award certificate, you said you can find your award information online. Clara didn't mean it. Don't be too harsh. They stumbled back, as if each of my words were poisoned arrows. The gray watch hit the stone steps. The dial cracked like a spider's web. This was the coming-of-age gift I gave him when he turned 18. And back then, he said he would wear it into the next life. I pressed the alarm button on the smart door lock, and the siren startled the pigeons from under the eaves. I can never go back. Every time you come, I will call the police. A year later, I returned to my country to attend a class reunion. While I was touching up my makeup in the bathroom, Clara's tattered skirt suddenly flashed in the mirror. Avril, I invite you to watch the fireworks. Her sweet, cloying voice mixed with the smell of ether pressed against the back of my neck, and at the moment the syringe pierced my skin, I thought to myself that the sanatorium really seemed unreliable. In the end, this trapped beast was not restrained. When I woke up, the iron chain rubbed against the old scar on my ankle, and Clara was tying explosives with Gray's tie. That tie clip was chosen by me, reflecting her twisted smile. At this moment, I informed Gray and Sean that if they don't come, I will blow you up here. Do you think they chose you? Or did they choose themselves? At that moment, the surveillance screen lit up, showing Gray and Sean crashing into the warehouse. Clara frantically pulled my hair. Why? Why do I go through so much trouble? And they still love you. Why do you have it so easy? I took away your dad, your brother, and your boyfriend. But you still have your grandma and your mom to pay the way for. You and those two worthless men have been finding me displeasing ever since you left, constantly muttering your name. Even that old man of yours. She turned around and kicked over a piece of metal. The will he made before he died says you and Sean split the inheritance. They say they treat me like their own daughter. But in reality, they only left me a house and $1 million. And I don't get a share of the inheritance. Hypocritical. I thought to myself that she really wronged me. Because I also didn't know that my father had left me so much inheritance. It was probably because Sean's savior complex flared up, before feeling sorry for Clara, that he kept this matter from me, and conveniently used the excuse of, he's the one supporting me, to manipulate me. Gray and Sean burst into the room. Sean's face turned pale. Clara, let Avril go. Otherwise, I will make you wish you were dead. Gray said nothing, just kept staring at Clara's every move. Clara smiled strangely and said, it's useless. You will never be able to save this bitch. She suddenly raised the knife and stabbed down at me. As the tip of the knife approached the cheekbone, the iron door of the warehouse was slammed open. With a piercing sound, Clara's hand trembled, and a line of blood immediately seeped from my neck. 30 seconds later, the riot shield broke through the window, and the scene of Piper, holding a megaphone and screaming, was broadcast live on the surveillance screen. She was even wearing slippers, and her hair was a mess, like a typhoon had passed through. In the moment, Clara was stunned. Gray grabbed a rusty iron rod and struck her wrist. The sound of bones shattering, and the wail of a siren erupted. Simultaneously, the police rushed in and pinned Clara to the ground. But just as she was about to be handcuffed, she suddenly erupted, knocking the police officer's sidearm from his waist. She slowly rolled to my feet, her twisted and hideous face reflecting, if we're going to die, let's die together. Sean's movement towards her was faster than when he protected Clara. Back in the day, as the blade sank into his side, Gray pulled me into his embrace. The warm blood sprang onto his back, where he had shielded me from the basketball. Clara was pressed down to the ground again. This time the police were much more forceful, and she absolutely could not break free. Why? 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 You should have everything taken away from you by me. You should be trampled under my feet. She is still screaming. You've always taken nothing but trash. I walked over and saw her twisted like a maggot, under the control of the police. Even hating you feels like a waste of time. Sean is not in life-threatening danger, but the doctor tactfully indicated that one of his kidneys would have difficulty functioning. In the future, he saved my life after all. So I eventually went to the hospital to see him. He looked very weak on the sick bed, and when he saw me, he smiled faintly with a pale face. Avril, I'm not trying to repay a favor, but could you possibly? I interrupted him. I forgive you. A sparkle of hope burst forth in his eyes, but that's all there is to it. If you expect that we can restore any sibling bond between us, I advise you to give up that fantasy as soon as possible. The bond between siblings disappeared long ago. When you repeatedly favored Clara, the light in his eyes extinguished. When I left the ward, I heard a sobbing apology coming from inside. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. A faint sting passed through my heart, But that was not for Sean, but for the beauty that once truly existed, and has now vanished, without a trace. Arriving in front of the elevator, Piper was leaning against the wall, munching on a sandwich, and looked up at me, shaking her phone. "Grandma Shin is asking when you're coming back," she said. "The cherry blossoms at the Paris studio are in full bloom." On the day I set off back to Paris, I received a call from Father Lin. "Gray is in the late stage of liver cancer." The old man's voice was like sandpaper. "The doctor said at most 3 months. He wants to see you one last time." I caressed the gold and laid on my jade bracelet. Piper previously introduced me to a skilled master craftsman who put in a lot of effort and finally repaired the jade bracelet. My grandmother left me. "Uncle, that's not appropriate." On the other end of the phone came a suppressed sigh. "Avril, he still has the watch you gave him on his bedside table, and he won't even fix it. Uncle knows that he was wrong to you before, but can you?" I remained silent for a long time, then said, "I'm sorry, Uncle." I hung up the phone and walked towards the boarding gate with my luggage. A few days after returning to Paris, I woke up to the simultaneous voice messages from Sean's lawyer and Piper. "Besides the inheritance you were entitled to, Mr. Gu has also transferred all his shares to you and is willing to serve as a professional manager." The lawyer's voice sounded like he was reciting a eulogy. He said, "This is a belated dowry." Piper's tone was somewhat complicated. "Gray is gone. He was still holding the watch you gave him." I replied with a note to indicate that I received it. Piper's voice immediately came. "Darling, you wouldn't have softened your heart, would you? Let me tell you, am I the kind of person who goes back on their word? Let's not talk about that. When are you coming to Paris? I'll treat you to a Michelin 3-star meal." I replied to Piper's message while getting out of bed to wash up, get dressed, and do my makeup. Today, Grandma Shin invited me, saying she wanted to introduce me to a handsome guy with golden hair, who is said to be the design director of a luxury brand. As I pushed open the door to the restaurant, Grandma Shin was winking at me while holding up a champagne glass. "Sweetheart, this is Alex. His grandfather is an alumnus of your grandmother." The blonde man turned around, his blue eyes like the morning mist over the. "I heard you restored a legendary emerald. I'm in need of a partner." A light rain began to fall outside the window. Spring had finally arrived in Paris.